right. Not sure how many people are going to view this because I don't come up with any scheduled times. Let's see if it increases anymore. Thanks to the 3 people that are here right now. All right, let me see the comments. Hey, how's it going, David? Oh, there they are. Is everybody having an awesome Monday? Yeah, my phone's going off. Hold on, I'm going to reply to this text real quick. Hey, what's up, JC? All right. Hopefully that'll stay right there. All right. I record with my phone because it doesn't lag, right? It's not lagging for anybody. And also my laptop screen, my laptop camera sucks. Ben Treasure Hunter, what's up, Jason? How's everything going? If you guys hear kids laughing in the background or dogs barking, it's because the wife and kids are playing Guess Who, and our dogs bark at everything. We got 4 people in here. I'm assuming not a lot of people are going to come just because I don't really put out any warnings. And this is a video that I've talked about doing for a while, so I'm finally getting around to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. And that way, when people watch it later on, there's not a bunch of waiting around to get started. So yeah, like the title says, and like my previous videos have said, I was going to take all the questions that were answered by Forrest Fenn, along with some quotes, and kind of discuss my thoughts on them. And it's probably going to be a long video, so totally understandable if you guys leave, as much as I would like to keep it short, just for viewing purposes, or amount of views, I should say. It's really not possible with all this information. So if anything, I'll probably break it up into a couple different segments and just go live each time. So I want to give a shout out to Illinois Ghost and Mysterious Jenny over at Mysterious Writings. I contacted both of them and seen if I could pull information off from their website to use in a video, to which they kindly agreed, but just asked that I give them a shout out and include my link include their link in my description box. So I'll do that as soon as this video is uploaded. Illinois Ghost also wanted me to inform the viewers that over at his website, which I'll include a link of, he has all the scrapbooks and other stuff available for free download for, PDF viewing on your phone when you're out on the go. So that's pretty cool of him to take the time and do all that. And yeah, and same thing with Mysterious Writings. Tons of information on there that's probably pretty valuable to all the searchers. Crap, I'm at work, he says. Alright, so with that being said, just one more time, thank you guys for letting me use your content. And so pretty much I'm going to read all the 6 questions and additional questions from Mysterious Writings, along with, gosh darn it, along with Fenn's answers, and then throw my interpretation of it out there, or see if there's anything that we can pull from the sentence. Some of them might not apply. A lot of them probably aren't important, but I tend to believe that Fenn has been kind of sneaking us hints here and there, just in the context of, the stuff that he says in interviews and whatnot. And like I said in a previous video, he goes out of his way to mention something even when the conversation wasn't leading there. So I have a hard time believing that, a lot of this stuff isn't important. All right, so with that being said, I'm just going to get started on this. All right, so and one more thing, this obviously isn't an all-inclusive list. There's tons of information out there, so I'm just rolling with what I have. I mean, if I had it all, the video would be like a month long, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not a huge fan of reading in the first place, but something about, the Forrest Fenn stuff keeps me interested enough to do it. So, all right, so February 2013, the question was, I'm sure you are aware that the thrill of the chase has captured many hearts and ambitions of those who read your book. Are you happy with the way the search for your hidden treasure is going? Do you have any regrets, or more importantly, would you like to see anything different in the ways people are chasing for the prize? Ben replied, "It was fortunate that two writers, Irene Rawlings and Margie Goldsmith, liked my book enough to review it in the national publications. Those stories gave it ignition. The hidden treasure story in the book provided enough propulsion to keep it in public view long enough for word of mouth traffic to broaden its desire across America and beyond. I'm more than pleased with the way that it has been accepted. What I didn't expect was the number of people who immediately started searching maps and using Google Earth to locate their special spots. Many have read my book multiple times looking for additional clues or even hints that might assist them in the hunt." All right, I got to pick this apart just a little bit. All right, so right here where he says Irene Rawlings and Margie Goldsmith liked my book enough to review it in national publications, and that's what gave it ignition. I have a really hard time believing that. I think Fenn knew from the get-go that it was going to be a pretty big deal amongst a small community. All right, fairly large community. There are a lot of people interested, but I think very few actually searching or taking it seriously. And then he says, what I didn't expect was the number of people who immediately started searching maps and using Google Earth to locate their special spots. Now, I have a hard time believing that he didn't expect that, because he talked about needing a good map. He talked about using Google Earth. He talked about doing research and all that. It's in his book. So if he didn't expect that, why? Most people don't have maps sitting around their house. So of course they're going to, start downloading maps and Google Earth and whatnot. So I kind of find that a strange comment. The second question, you mentioned one of your most cherished items in your collection is the first arrowhead you ever found. Over the years, what are some other relics you were most thrilled to discover, and why? He says, I found that little arrowhead when I was 9, and it sent me on a lifelong journey of adventure and discovery. I wondered who made it and caused it to be resting at my feet for 1,000 years, waiting for me to pick it up. I still feel excitement of that day. In the Saharan desert of Libya, I discovered thousands of war relics left over from the tank battles of World War II. Burned out tanks and shell casings were everywhere, and in close proximity were stone projectiles and crudely made hand axes that could have been 30,000 years old. I was looking at conflicts piled on top of conflicts. Who can imagine how many? All right. I think that this is significant because Fenn seems to have this this fascination with war. I don't want to. He was in the military, but he has this fascination with, with the amount of war that humankind has attempted or has acted upon, and it's almost like it's probably the wrong way to say it, but I feel like he almost holds like a liberal view towards war and towards fighting, which, who can blame him? We probably shouldn't be fighting half the battles that we are, but I feel like he goes out of his way to kind of hint towards that multiple times. So that's just my little thought on there. All right, the third question, relating to the previous question, since you continue to explore, is there an item which you would love to find still, but just haven't? He said there are so many bits of history that I would like to find. A Clovis point between the ribs of a mammoth, a letter written by my father to my mother before they were married, a special fishing spot on the Madison River that no one alive knows about but me. The list is as endless as the search. All right, so his that Clovis remark, um, this I think is important because of all of Fenn's fascinations with Native American culture and historical Native American artifacts and whatnot. So the Clovis Point, along with the Folsom arrowhead, is like the oldest arrowheads that have been discovered. And there's a lot of argument saying, oh, they only go back to 11,000 years ago, but other archaeologists say it stopped at 11,000 years ago, and other researchers think that the Paleo Indians were around 30,000 years ago, which kind of goes right back to the last comment he made. Crudely made hand axes that could have been 30,000 years old. So it sounds like he's siding on the side that the Paleo Indians could have been around for 30,000 years and not the 11,000 that archaeologists believe. I don't think Fenn, well, I know Fenn doesn't care too much about archaeologists. Stop, please. Sorry. No, I'm making a video. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. So the Clovis Point, along with the ribs of a mammoth. So if you follow the whole Pangea theory about how all the continents were together, North America, for a large portion of it, was actually an ocean, especially the southwestern United States, and it was connected with Asia, and that's how all the buffalo, along with the Paleo Indians, had made it over right prior to the continents breaking apart, pretty much. So that could be a possible where warm waters halt. Where an ocean used to be, because that's what warm waters is an ocean or large body of water, and where they stop or no longer exist is an ocean that has gone away. All right, so just something to think about. All right, fourth question. I think I read, but correct me if I'm mistaken, that although you would love the treasure to be found, the discovery of the chest would end the exciting mystery and adventure for those actively seeking, and this would be missed by you. Would you rather the treasure stay hidden for many more years, or are you in hopes that the chest will be found soon? Fenn answered, I am ambivalent about the treasure being found. When it is discovered, I hope it is by some deserving person who is emotionally involved and has been rewarded by the other mountain thrills that come with the chase. If it is not found for several hundred years, that would be fine with me. One thing is for certain. When a person discovers that beautiful bronze chest and opens it for the first time and sees the bracelet with hundreds of rubies, emeralds, sapphires, and diamonds, and the 265 gold coins and hundreds of placer nuggets, he will be in awe. It is easy for me to predict the expression of their face. It's kind of weird that he targets that towards a man, but not sexist in any nature when I say this, but I think that when he says give the poem to a child, I think he's talking about like a 12-year-old boy, Their imaginations are just, crazy. They talk, just like his comment that I'll read later on about, treasure hunting when they were kids and doing this and doing that. Boys really got out there and played pretend. A lot of girls did too, but boys were the outdoors types. And right here he says, when he sees that, don't mean to be just curious why he switched spots. Why your questions got to put people in the spot? Oh, okay. Obviously something else going on in the chat. All right, so yeah, it doesn't really apply to anything. I just find it weird that he aims it towards a male. All right, from the fifth question, from receiving feedback on Hunter's ideas and methods about how to discover the location of the chest, do you feel confident your method in hiding the chest will eventually be understood and the chest be found? Please know I am not asking for any specifics. My question is more like, do you still feel your poem will lead someone to the treasure? Fenn says, the person who finds the treasure will have studied the poem over and over and thought and analyzed and moved with confidence. Nothing about it will be accidental. And here it is. T.S. Eliot said, we shall not cease from our exploration, and at the end of all of our exploring, we will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Every time I read this, I cannot help but to think that the the hunt is either that the poem is either circular in nature or it's all right, you know, everything's right there in one spot and you're seeing it for the first time like, oh crap, you know, like how didn't I notice this? Another thing he says is we'll have read the poem over and over and thought and analyzed and moved with confidence. All right, so on that note, I'm going to come up and I'm going to read. I actually don't know if I copied it over. Fenn had made a suggestion for coining a new phrase, and it was something along the lines of like what all of our conversations are with search areas. Pretty much saying that that if you don't have or if you have a search area, then you're wrong, right? You have to know exactly where it's at to get there, right? And and we will only know exactly where it's at after we have done all of our exploration, and at the end of our exploring, we will arrive where we started. Gosh, I hope that makes sense. It makes sense when I say it. All right, and then the sixth comment, after reading your book and sensing you have found a sincere peace and purpose in life, but knowing others still struggle with this ultimate find, I wonder, what would your advice be to others for realizing the contentment it seems that you know? Do you feel the thrill of the chase, not the hunt, is vital? Fenn says there is an appropriate quote in the Duveen biography by Seacrest. They never knew that it was the chase they sought and not the quarry. I see my memoir as being a story that was ordained by some unknown hand. It came to me at age 80 as though my entire life had been waiting for that moment. The bulk of the book was written in 6 weeks, and phrases that I never thought about before suddenly appeared on my computer screen. I said it in the foreword that the book wrote itself. I had written 7 books before this one, and it seems that none of the lines crossed where they were supposed to, metaphorically speaking. I don't feel qualified to give advice, excuse me, but a few ideas that I would like to say have guided me are: stay in your job only if you love it, get out in the mountains and turn a log over to see what's there, avoid those things that distract you from your self-esteem. The key word is contentment. If you find it, everything else has already fallen in place. All right, let's analyze that real quick. All right. So he came up with all sorts of new phrases that he had never thought of before, and they just poured out onto the computer screen. He said, once again, he throws out that quote, they never knew it was the chase they sought and not the quarry. All right, this kind of goes along with all of my videos where I mentioned the possibility of the interviews being scripted. All right, not in the sense that I believe it, not in the sense that I don't believe it or don't believe the treasures out there, but scripted in the sense of it's what's still giving it its momentum. You know, and he uses the same lines over and over and over and over and over, and it's because he has memorized those lines. All right. That way he's not giving out anything else by slipping up. All right. Now he says, get out in the mountains and turn a log over to see what's there. That's not the first time we're going to see this. All right. So after reading all these answers, where he's talking about flipping a log over, I kind of have a feeling that the chest is hidden in association with a log, all right, or could be covered with logs or whatever. If you haven't already done so, uh, go read For Whom the Bell Tolls and read about how Fenn or how the main character had hidden the bomb that he was supposed to blow up the bridge with, and then go find the quote where Fenn says that he he felt like the chest was a bomb when he was hiding it. So that's definitely something interesting. All right. Then he says the key word is contentment. If you can find it, everything else has already fallen in place. Now, is that supposed to be, taken as a metaphor for life, or is the key word contentment, meaning you can, if you can find it, everything else in the poem or in your search has fallen into place. All right, that'll come important here in a little bit. All right, so those are all from February of 2013, and I'm going to read through some of these comments and see if there's anything. All right, Rodney, I got to go do some personal stuff. Okay, take it easy, Jason. I know you're probably gone. How important the ancient Indians are to him? Absolutely, they are absolutely important to him. That's a prime example of what I'm saying there. The ancient Indians believed life is a circle, so anywhere you start on a circle, you end at the beginning. Hello from New York. Hello, Tamara. Hello. They and their artifacts are present in my spot, so Forrest Fenn was and is contemplating his beginning life and his death in the thrill of the chase. All right, I could definitely see how the poem could be construed or understood that way as well. All right, let's go up to February 2014. All right, my previous 6 questions were asked shortly before last year's February 27th segment of the Today Show. Reporting on your extraordinary treasure hunt, it resulted in an explosion of new seekers from all across the world. What are some of your thoughts about the flurry of activity over the past year? Did the excitement towards the chase surprise you in any way? Does it make you think the chest might be found earlier than first thought? Fenn says, it is interesting to know that a great number of people are out there searching. Many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. The treasure may be discovered sooner than anticipated. All right, so only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. And the last question that he had answered, he says the key word is contentment. If you can find it, everything else has already fallen into place. All right, it might be connected, might not, who knows? I'm just throwing ideas out there. All right, the second question. Many incredible, loving, adventurous, and fun stories are being lived and shared because of the thrill of the chase. Even though these hopes were in your mind when writing the book and poem, what are you finding most rewarding about them? Fenn says, one man said he and his brother dug for buried treasure when they were kids in North Carolina, but had not spoken in 25 years. He said he read my book and called his brother. Now they are reunited and searching for my treasure. Children have the greatest imagination because their thoughts run free. For starters, I really don't even think that answers the question, but once more, he's gone out of his way to talk about children and their imagination. All right. The next question. From the first chapter, Toys Are Forever, to the last, Mirror on My Wall, your most recent published book, Too Far to Walk, like the thrill of the chase, recounts touching stories about your life. Tales that, as Douglas Preston commented, contain million-dollar advice and stories on how to lead a fulfilling life. Every time I read them, I get the sense of urgency or reminder to ring the bell loudly. Thank you. Why was it important for you to write about your experiences and thoughts? And would you encourage others to write about their own? He says, After my Thrill of the Chase was published, my Too Far to Walk book begged to be written. It was easy because I just told some stories and illustrated them with photos from my scrapbooks. I would encourage everyone to write their memoir. The hardest part is sitting down and getting started. Um, he seems to talk about writing your biography and submitting it to Library of Congress quite a bit. That's not really in this answer, but the hardest part about it is sitting down and getting started. That could be a hint towards the poem itself, but I really don't have too much to comment on that. All right, question 4. I feel each person finds himself drawn to a different place. For me, it is the beach. I love the warmth of the sun mixed with the cooling breeze and the humbling feeling I get when looking endlessly out into the ocean and listening to the waves. You mention in The Thrill of the Chase, it is the mountains which continue to beckon you, and that they always will. What is it about the mountains that make them so special for you, and when did you first realize it? Fenn says, the mountains are full of activity that fills me with wonder. One of my earliest recollections as a boy was to turn over a rotting log in the forest and watch as 100 little critters scurried around trying to decide what to do. It's nature in its rawest moment. I find solace in the solitude of trees. So once again, he's mentioning turning over that log. In this last line, I find solace in the solitude of the trees. All right, that could be a hint towards as I have gone alone in there. All right, question number 5. The meticulous work documented and described in your book, The Secrets of San Lazaro Pueblo, certainly express an appreciation and respect for the past. You mention each artifact that is not recovered is a book that will never be read. What do you hope to yet learn or find there? And while discovering the past, do you feel our modern ways are missing out on earlier enjoyments? Fenn says, archaeologists today don't like to excavate. Their motto is, save the past for the future. I think that is short-sighted. For me, the future is 5 minutes from now. We unearthed the only prehistoric Kachina dance masks ever found in the Southwest. Archaeologists said they didn't exist in prehistoric times. So we corrected some misinformation. The past should not have to wait for us any longer. All right, so there goes towards Fenn disliking archaeologists again, right? Pretty much saying because they have a degree, they get to decide on what's done with that land that's deemed archaeological, only for them after they decide they don't do anything with. All right, what's to say 100 years from now we even care about archaeology, right? Anything that is found on archaeological digs or excavations is put in a box in a basement somewhere. I deal with this frustration all the time as a metal detectorist, so I definitely know what he's talking about. Here he's talking about Kachina dance masks. Could have a relationship with his Kachina dolls that he's talking about in the book, but that's just that might be reaching. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about that, but if I were to guess, I would say that Fenn is he's more wanting this treasure to legitimately be found 1,000 years from now, or however many years from now, but yet he says he's indifferent about it. But he talks about all these, all these ancient discoveries, and obviously they hold some meaning to them. But next question: with spring around the corner, the planning and search for your treasure will actively pick up again. I want to thank you for sharing some of your favorite quotes during this cooler period of the hunt. I and many others have enjoyed them, and many of your books, interviews, etc. You so often share beautiful words filled with timeless wisdom. Would you be willing to share a few more that hold special insights or thoughts you hold close? Fenn says, it is fun to arrange words in such a way that you have to smile at the end of a sentence. So right here, he's talking about arranging words, or kind of messing with, how they're laid out and whatnot. And he says, in such a way that you have to smile at the end of the sentence. So maybe smiling at the end of the sentence or maybe thinking of something that will make you smile at the end of the sentence could be a key into how to figure out where warm waters halt. Maybe that kind of goes into, people believing, that it's tears or, or emotion or whatever. Your tears stop when you're happy or so on and so forth. All right, then he says, autobiographers always lean towards the subject. That's pretty funny, like saying, oh, like, I'm the subject, so I'm leaning towards myself. I don't know why I felt the need to explain that. He then says, it is important that I drink a martini at least once a year so I can continue to remember why I don't like them. All that I could remember was that I was supposed to, or that I was not supposed to forget something. And lastly, he was so busy talking, he didn't hear what I was saying. All right, so, maybe Fenn hid something along right in there in the first line of it's fun to arrange words in such a way that you have to smile at the end of the sentence, and threw the other stuff in there as just a way to kind of hide it. Probably not, but who knows at this point. All right, so what comes next is a series of questions that followed after that February 2014 6 questions with Forrest Fenn. And this is really the only time that he went out and answered a lot more questions than what he was scheduled to answer. So it seems like 2014 was a very active year for Forrest Fenn. All right, so before I begin, I'm going to read through these real quick and see if there was anything. Rodney T.S. Eliot Fenn said in a question at Mysterious Writing, no one has secret info into the treasure chest. It is in the poem for all to see. I wish I could see it. I absolutely agree with that. I think the answer is in the poem. Right there, right in front of our face. And that's, once we see it, we're going to arrive at that place for the very first time. I think that the ancient Indians are key, though it hasn't helped me much. Illinois Ghost, what's up, man? Thanks for, I gave you a shout out at the beginning of this video, and I'll be posting links to your website in case anybody's interested, and I let them know about the PDFs. Asset Marketing says, Warm Waters Halt is the Trail of Tears, where the U.S. made the Navajo Indians march to Fort Sumner, only to have them mostly die along the way and later consider it a failed attempt and send them back home. I don't necessarily agree with the Warm Waters Halt being emotions or tears or whatever. I know it's an idea that a lot of people subscribe to, so that's why I kind of threw it into there. I don't necessarily know if Fenn was too fascinated with, mid 1800s type Native American stuff, or if he's more interested in civilizations that are long gone, which he kind of hints towards in the book. After all the development and, after humankind has completely taken over, well, humankind, along with war, is what has gotten those civilizations taken over and pretty much extincted themselves. You have whole civilizations that just up and disappeared, a lot of them being during the time of, Spanish exploration and a lot of other stuff. So it very well could be. So this is a location in New Mexico. The Trail of Tears is also a location in Georgia. All right, obviously, going, making its way northwest, ending in Oklahoma. But the original Trail of Tears started here in 1829 during America's first gold rush. Yeah, that's right. Gold was discovered here in Georgia 20 years before California. And it is some 23 carats, and it was, one of the richest lodes ever found until California was discovered. So with that being said, pretty much anywhere that gold was discovered, the government marched the Indians to a different location. All right, you want to know why they moved them to Oklahoma? Because there ain't freaking crap in Oklahoma. They're like, yeah, we can have this bad mark on our history because we'll only have to do it once, and we will have gotten rich in the process. So let's go ahead and just move them up there where we know that we're not going to find any, precious metals or valuable resources. I would love to hear your thoughts on the blaze. uh, I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to make that video yet. I'm sure in due time. Eventually, I'm gonna reach like a breaking point with this poem and just be like, throw it out the window or something. All right, but like I was saying, so in 2014, Fenn continued to answer more and more questions. All right, so on May 23rd, 2014, because these 6 questions were templated yearly. All right, on every February 4th or whatever, that's when it gets put up there. I might be wrong. If I am, hopefully somebody will correct me, but all of these 6 question series said February 4th, 2013, February 4th, 2014, so on and so forth, with 2014 having a ton of other questions that were answered, and no other year did that. So this person says, Mr. Fenn, with all of your travels and searches, studies, and involvements with certain organizations, as well as your passion for artifacts and the knowledge they hold and give, what is your opinion on how prehistoric man made their way into the Western Hemisphere? There are many theories that the ancients came by way of land bridge, followed the glaciers route by way of Greenland and Iceland, crossed the ocean to South America, and traveled to the north by land. I would like to know which theory you may take a liking to from over the others. Or maybe you have a theory of your own that you would like to share based on your personal knowledge and thoughts of this subject. All right? Fenn says, Dear Mike, you are asking a question that the greatest archaeological minds in the world can't answer. Guess I should be flattered. The latest thinking by Dennis Stanford at the Smithsonian is that the first human took a step in North America, left the Iberian Peninsula, what is now Portugal and Spain, and sailed to the coast of America. That may have been Solitarian man, later Clovis man. The date is highly debatable, ranging from about 14,000 years ago or earlier. What Dennis needs as proof is the discovery of a sunken sailing vessel off the coast of Maine that has igneous tool stones from Spain used as ballast. I certainly don't have any answers and may be wrong for some of the statements written here. Thanks for the question. Next time you might ask me how deep a hole is. All right, there's Fenn with his you might as well ask me how deep a hole is comment. Like I said in previous videos, he will go out of his way to bring up these scripted little quotes that he inserts into every single interview. I guess that could apply to that. Like, hell, man, I don't know. You might as well ask me how deep a hole is. But he gave an explanation, so he didn't really need to throw that into the bottom. Another thing that I find weird is that somebody that cherishes ancient Indians or ancient civilizations as much as Fenn does, is that one, he wouldn't submit to a certain theory, and two, the theory that he is submitting to isn't even the most logical one, in my opinion, but I who knows, but you're talking about a boat or a sailing vessel or something from 14,000 years ago. He doesn't bring up the fact of 30,000 years ago or none of the like, so I find that kind of strange that he answered that question that way, but at the same time, I'm no expert. So, all right, the next question was on May 27th, 2014. Forrest, when creating The Hunt, was there any serendipity involved? Did you find that things just clicked together somehow? Fenn replied, serendipity, an aptitude for making desirable discoveries by accident. The word carries several connotations, Sean, and I don't think that it works for me in the context you mentioned. Playing a hunch is nearly always fraught with disappointment, especially if the stakes are high. A searcher who guesses through life is destined to carry a thin wallet. And this is pretty much Fenn saying that he knows what words mean again. And this will come through, this will pop up multiple times within this video. He keeps making these comments towards, what a word means and how it applies and so on and so forth. But Fenn has also said, that he used the word tenacious wrong when he was describing, linking up or hooking up with Peggy. He says, but I was too tenacious, if you know what I mean. Well, the thing is, tenacious doesn't fit where he had used it, but he followed it up with, if you know what I mean. And the reason why he did that is he wanted to prove a point that even though that a word is used in the wrong context, if the reader still knows what you mean, then why does it matter? So I find it weird that he does that, but he still pretty much tells this guy, hey, you're using serendipity wrong, you know. So that's the word carries several connotations, and I don't think it works for me in the context you mentioned, meaning an aptitude for making desirable discoveries by accident. And if Fenn is saying that it doesn't work for him in the context that this writer has mentioned, it means that his clues were not by accident. They were, well thought out and planned out, and which is probably why it took him 15 years to make it. All right. The next question. Oh, I love this one. Is the blaze one single object? Fenn replies, in a word, yes. I have received a few hundred emails from searchers who are sure they know what the blaze is. Ideas range from a mark on a tree, a rock, a sign, a fire, the side of a bluff, a waterfall, a spot on the head of a horse, a rainbow, and even a live owl that flew away when it was approached. As a side note, with summer on the close horizon, searchers should review the rules about being safe in the mountains. The big takeaway from that is the blaze one single object? In a word, yes. Meaning the blaze is a word. And maybe it's contentment, because contentment is key. And after you figure that out, everything will fall into place. All right. Next question. Dear Mr. Fenn, since you have mentioned olives a number of times, I wondered if you have visited the Olive Branch in Illinois dig site. It was a fascinating read for me, learning both about the Dalton Peoples site along the Mississippi in southern Illinois and the New Madrid Fault. I continue to learn at least something new on a daily basis while on this journey. Interestingly, while researching the Olive Branch site, I learned about the Fenn Clovis cache that I believe you purchased in 1988. I looked at photos of some of the amazing stone artifacts, learning also that they are from an unknown field site near the borders of Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. Is the Fenn cache currently on display anywhere? I was going to try to sneak in your how deep is a hole question also, but I will refrain, as perhaps I understand why you asked it. As always, thank you. Fenn responds, good question, Ellen. I have not visited the Olive Branch site, but I have several friends who have excavated there. How I obtained the Fenn cache may be of interest to you. I was called by a local trader to look at the 56 large Clovis projectiles in preforms. They were affixed to a wooden frame. At first glance, I told myself that they were too good to be real, and I was about to reject them when I noticed the copper wire that held them to the frame was heavily patinaed. I knew from my days casting art bronze that it takes many years for copper to reach that dark brown color, not unlike the color of an old penny. So I asked to take the pieces overnight to study. Upon high power magnification, I discovered that each piece had minute traces of red ochre, hematite, in the flake scars, and was pretty sure that the pigment came from the Sunrise Red Ochre Mine in Wyoming, a known Clovis site. Further, inspection revealed that amber mastic was present in the flutes of 3 obsidian points. It had been used to attach the projectiles to atlatl dart shafts. That did it for me, and I purchased the collection, which has since been published in numerous stories related to early man in North America. A book has been written about the collection, and it has been widely exhibited at shows. It is now being studied at Texas A&M University. So, Fenn obviously knows about Clovis, right? or about paleos. And I could be mixing this up. You know, maybe it's the, you know, the Folsoms that were attributed to the paleos or whatever. But he just goes on this long tangent about how much he knows about Clovis points, but then gives a weak description of how they had arrived here, which, you know, I think that there's definitely something fishy with that. So maybe somebody could take another look into it and you know, see if they can find something soon. All right. Let me. I'll read this other question that's going into June 2nd, 2014. Then I'm gonna look at the questions real quick. Following is part of my email, and then questions with Forrest's response. Hi, Forrest. I have received quite a few questions about the 9 clues and solving them. Below are some of these. Please share what you feel comfortable in saying. Thanks so much, Jenny. Okay, so this was the start of, you know, of that day, or of these questions. It says, Mr. Fenn, it has been a while since you have updated us on any searchers figuring out clues in the poem and how close they have been to the chest. How many of the 9 clues have searchers correctly figured out that you know of, and just how close has a searcher actually been to the chest? And a couple more from other searchers. Who has been the closest to the chest, man or woman, that you know of? With your recent comments to the search community, would you tell us, to your knowledge, if 1 or more searchers have solutions to 5 or more clues? The next question. Has anyone, to your knowledge, solved all 9 clues and still walked right past the treasure? And the last question, can we really find the treasure with just the first clues, and how many is a few? Fenn says, I don't want to answer all of those questions, but we'll try this one. Who has been closest to the chest, man or woman that you know of? As far as I know, the closest person to the treasure was a man, but there may have been a woman with him. The most common mistake I see searchers make is that they underestimate the importance of the first clue. If you don't have that one nailed down, you might as well stay at home and play canasta. Now, I don't know what's up with Fenn. I don't know what's up with Fenn and always bringing up canasta, but this is kind of going right back to the you know, man was the closest, and then him also saying, you know, when he finds it, and something else important that I was going to throw into there. Oh, in the warm waters halt, he says, the most common mistake that I see searchers make is that they underestimate the importance of the first clue. If you don't have that one nailed down, you might as well stay at home and play canasta. So you have to figure out where warm waters halt, and only after you have figured that out, if you can find it, everything else has fallen into place. Alright, just like he said about the key word is contentment. Alright, so you have to figure out, this is an obvious, right? It's an obvious with if you're searching, you know, if you're reading it like a map, or if you're interpreting it this way or this way or this way. Bottom line is you have to figure out where warm waters halt before you can continue on with the rest of the poem. And I sincerely believe that. Alright, serendipity, might as well stay at home and play canasta. Alright, so I just ended on June 2nd, 2014. I put a little X to it so I'll remember. Alright, and then I'm going to go and read some of these comments, and I'll probably wrap it up since it's going on 50 minutes, unless enough people want me to continue on. Alright, I'm here, we can begin. Alright, I think it took 15 years because he had to wait for something. What do you think he had to wait for, Illinois Ghost? Alright, never thought about that. Adventure, hey, good to have you, Adventure. Rick, you tested your live last week. You doing a show soon. Peggy is a 10, as is Bo Derek. I don't really understand your Peggy is a 10. Tamara. I'm probably saying it wrong. I read it like Tamara, but I feel like it's Tamra. I have a hard time sneaking away with 2 kids. Yep. Mine are screaming in the background, but they'll be all right. Um, see, hey, how's it going, Sean? Glad you could make it. I think you chose some great answers. Question answers. The treasure is out there waiting for the person who can make all the lines cross in the right spot. That's what I wanted to hit on, Hydra Makers. Thank you for bringing that up, and I actually just read it. Fenn keeps bringing up this quote of making the lines cross. Metaphorically speaking, you have to make the lines. You have to make everything match up and become parallel, perpendicular, freaking equal, everything all the way around in the poem. Whether you consider that, hooking it up to or overlaying it on a map, whether it's you're just using the poem, so on and so forth. Forrest said when he hit it, the time was right and he had to act. Right? Yeah, and he said that, the clock was ticking pretty much. So Forrest said that when he hit it, the time was right and he had to act. And you just said that he had to wait for something. The lines crossing remark reminds me of look at the big picture comment from Forrest. Or just one spot, like he says. Everything must fit together. I really think in order to solve anything else, you have to solve Warm Waters Halt. It's not a matter of like once you find where Warm Waters Halt is when you'll be able to see everything else. It's a matter of like you have to figure it out for anything else to work. Identify all the clues and draw lines between them, and here they all intersect to be where the treasure. Okay. All right. What do you guys think? It's going on 52 minutes. I've had about 1 million people come in and then leave again, which lets me know that it's getting boring. You guys want me to keep going with this or wrap it up and do another segment on it? I was late, but this is amazing. Well, thank you. I appreciate it because I'm not a huge fan of reading. So, all right, I'll read a couple more and bring it to an hour, right? And then at an hour, I'll probably shut it down. You got time? I got time. Okay. All right. Next question on June 8th, 2014. Forrest, have you reflected on the notion that a person could find your treasure and never let you or the rest of the world know that they have accomplished the undertaking, and that the same person, now privy to the location, could add to the mystery and adventure of it all, leaving their own tokens and or hints of the treasure in the coveted spot for forthcoming seekers generations to find, all the while remaining anonymous? If the right someone were to find it, or has, the chase perpetuated and preserved could take on a new direction that could be timeless. Of course, this quixotic a thought as this is, it would need to be a special someone all around. My observation of human nature is most would want the world to know how smart and successful they were in completing the treasure hunt. Then again, there are treasure hunt examples out there where the location is found with no treasure to be seen or explanation to be had. I like the intrepid belief that if you get it right, there will always be something there at the exact location to find and treasure. Fenn says, I have tried to answer those questions several times and finally decided that what I say would be conjecture and might mislead some searchers. So I think I'll pass on those. So Ben thinks, pretty much he's saying, I've already said 1 million times that, whoever finds the chest will let the world know, and that the chest is still hidden where it says that it's hidden, which is really weird because now he's coming out and saying that he doesn't think that the searcher will, or that the person that finds the chest will admit to it. First, he said earlier this year that he has a feeling that it'll be found this summer. And then after that, he said he doesn't think the finder will admit to it. And the only way I could think of is if you're a if you're a construction worker at a spot in vicinity of where he hid the chest and you happen to discover it by accident, you're not going to admit that to anybody. I definitely wouldn't. Be like, yeah, I don't have to be a construction worker anymore. Especially if it's on federal property or something. But I don't know why he would go back on his word like that and now all of a sudden have that new opinion. I shouldn't say go back on your word. Um, but Illinois Ghosts, I made a video a couple days ago. It's like an hour long, and at the end of that, that's where I discuss how I think you're legally going to be able to keep the chest, and it'll come into play. It might not happen. I'll just do it. Hold on. I'm gonna find it right now so I can read it just in case anybody didn't happen to be around for that. All right, this question, I'm jumping I guess I didn't really jump ahead too much. You have mentioned sealing a bottle that is included in the chest with wax. What was your reason for doing this? Were you concerned merely for damp conditions, or is the chest hidden in water? Fenn says, thanks for the question. When I was ready to put the olive jar that contained my autobiography and 2 of my hairs in the chest, I studied the lid. It was made of tin-coated steel, which is not easily oxidized in air or water. Over time, those characteristics can break down. Although I'm not ready to say that the treasure chest is not in water, I certainly didn't want moisture to enter the jar. So I melted a chunk of microcrystalline wax to the point that it started smoking, which meant it was at its thinnest viscosity. Then I dipped the jar in molten wax deep enough to cover the lid and part of the jar, and held it there for several seconds. I wanted the wax to seal the threads on both the lid and the jar, but I didn't want the heat to break the glass. After it cooled for a minute or so, and the wax hardened, I repeated the process 2 times, increasing the wax thickness on the lid. The wax was petroleum-based and won't evaporate or deteriorate. When cold, it becomes brittle. That's why I wanted the threads on the lid and jar clogged. All I know are the facts. If you want the truth, go next door to the psychology department. Well, that's a weird way to end that question, but I think the biggest way, or the biggest thing to take away is when I was ready to put the olive jar that contained my autobiography and 2 of my hairs. And he goes in and he mentions it in his book. He says, I also put a little piece of me in there. So, on all these lands where supposedly it is illegal to treasure hunt or take anything from these federal properties, well, it's not really a treasure, right? It's either mislaid or abandoned property, because he has the 2 hairs that will work as DNA to prove that the chest was hidden by him. So the 2 hairs will prove that it was his. The autobiography will prove that he put it there. The Thrill of the Chase book and other books and all the media attention that it has gotten will prove that he was behind it. And the library of his autobiography at the Library of Congress, along with hairs that he probably submitted to some genealogy, facility or something, is also confirming, this DNA matches with this DNA, which was found with the treasure chest. That's how I think you're going to legally be able to keep it. And I think you're going to have to admit it in order to keep it legally and not have to evade the IRS with it. That's just, some people might submit to that idea, others might not, but I'm going to go through, read this. We're approaching 59 minutes, so I'm probably going to cut it off. You're only losing and gaining viewers because of lunchtime. Oh, hopefully. How does the Civil War soldier spit in the clues? I haven't come up with any Civil War references. Well, I wouldn't say. I know others that have. I honestly think he just tries to throw out random statements based on recent blog activity. So a lot of quotes are hard to take at face value. I can definitely agree with that, but I also think he goes out of his way to say stuff every single time. Like if you guys go watch the Lorraine the Lorraine Mills interviews, I'm like, man, all of this seems so fake, like a little skit being put on, like all the giggling and the exact matching of words every time, and says it the same way every single time. Well, in 1988, I was diagnosed with what everybody thought was terminal cancer. He says it that same exact way every single time. Every single time. Doesn't matter, who he's talking to, he says that same line. It's like, wow, do you have to say it like that? Or it's like, yeah, well, back in 1988, I was diagnosed with cancer, and come to find out, you know, they were wrong. That could be one way to say it, instead of, well, in 1988, I was diagnosed with what everyone thought was terminal cancer. How's that for a prognosis? It's like, geez, man. Did anyone see... All right, another hint or clue. I think he is recommending that the finders stay quiet because of all the crazies out there. I can absolutely agree with that. But he also knows the finder is likely someone who can't keep it quiet. Cheers. Cheers, Alan. Says the things he says over and over have to hint at something. That's what I think, too. In my opinion, if he keeps repeating, there is less chance of a slip-up. Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is he has his lines memorized. Thanks, I worked on it pretty hard. If he keeps repeating, there's less chance of a slip-up. And that's exactly what I think, is all these interviews, whether it's, face-to-face or, through emails or anything else, is, he has a script that he has learned, or that he has written and memorized for this. And within that script is stuff that he has decided to say to be very, very subtle hints that, once it's found, we'll be like, that's what you freaking meant that whole time, and he was literally telling us the whole time. So that's just what I think. Okay, let's go back to... Where did I leave off on? 6-8? Yep. Okay, just a couple more. And I'm only going because now I'm interested in it too. I did another one. Let's go to... Okay, Dear Forrest, in your book, The Thrill of the Chase, you mentioned how great your brother Skippy was. Did you ever learn what happened to the plane he flew into Hebgen Lake? Thanks for asking an easy question, Don. My family never learned what happened to the airplane or where it came from. It wasn't a big deal because of who Skippy was and how he operated. Things like that were almost expected. I thought he was a genius. He may have invented ESP if he had lived long enough. What does that even mean? I think he may have invented mind reading if he had lived long enough. I don't know. During the war, my dad had a barn where he kept Bessie, our cow. Skippy was about 16 when he nailed a large flat piece of tin to the wall and smeared it with cow manure to attract flies. He had an electrical gun that he plugged into the wall socket. When a fly landed on the tin, Skippy would put the barrel of the gun about 10 inches away from the fly and pull the trigger. A spark miraculously shot out at the fly and killed it. It was like a mini lightning bolt that made a loud psst sound. But most of the time, he missed the fly and had to move the lightning over a little. There were so many flies, it didn't matter. The electrical smell always started our adrenaline pumping, and we played war. The flies were German paratroopers who were landing to steal American secrets. It was great fun. In a couple of days, the general stationed me by the gate to collect a nickel from each neighborhood kid who wanted to watch. For a dime, they got to pull the trigger. Skippy tried to explain his secret gun theory to me. He said it was negative volts going to positive, or some such foolishness that I never understood. He said he was going to give the secret lightning gun invention to the army and use it against enemy soldiers. I remember asking him where the enemy would get cow manure. Life was tough in my lane. So right here, he's talking about negative volts and positive. So negative and positive. And he has all these opposites in the poem. Begin, halt, up, down, warm, cold, so on and so forth. So he's saying the same thing in this. For starters, I don't believe this story for a second. Not that I'm calling Fenn a liar. I just, it's like in his book where he says, all the stories that mingle among these pages are as true to history as one man can average out that truth. He's not talking about his history. He doesn't say are as true to my history. He says as true to history, meaning past people, events, and places, right? His book is just a great big long continuation of Catcher in the Rye. And in the part of the book where he says there was lots of mud and bombs and guns and blood and so on and so forth. He's writing exactly how For Whom the Bell Tolls writes in that book. Um, every little section that he mentions, he's writing exactly how the author had written in that book. Um, so then there's this. I don't understand the ESP thing. I thought he was a genius. All right, there's one more thing that was okay. When a fly landed on the tin, Skippy would point the barrel of the gun about 10 inches from the fly and pull the trigger. A spark miraculously shot at the fly and killed it. It was a mini lightning bolt that made a loud noise. Most of the time, he missed the fly and had to move the lightning over a little. Well, in his book, he talks about how his front sight post on his Daisy BB gun was crooked, and he knew exactly where to adjust. And he's saying the same thing on this. He's mentioning, he's going out of his way to mention lightning. Could have easily said it was like a static electricity that shot out of the gun or whatever. But he's using lightning, just like his horse's name. He's using, Kentucky windage, just like he mentions in the book. He's using this positive and negative and everything else. He's doing the same thing over and over and over, and he's freaking good at it. All right, moving on. Forrest, you said in the past that the chest is not in a dangerous place, yet searchers are searching along cliff sides, raging water, and other seemingly dangerous places. Could you please elaborate or qualify your statement in which you said, the chest is not in a dangerous place? Thanks. Thanks for the question. The treasure is not hidden in a dangerous place in the normal definition of the word, realizing that there probably is no place on this planet that is safe under all conditions. Bloggers have quoted me as saying that a child could walk up to the treasure. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's an accurate quote because a 3-year-old girl would have a problem without some help. Remember, I was about 80 when I hid the chest, and I had to make 2 trips. All right. Somebody, I can't remember who it was talking about. I actually think it might have been Illinois Ghost when I was checking out his videos earlier. I think you were saying something along the lines of, if Fenn had said something like, if you have a search partner, when you go to retrieve the treasure, you might as well leave them in the car, thinking that you're just, a couple hundred meters off from the road or off from where you parked the car. But when I hear I was 80, he's in good shape for 80. I mean, he's freaking 87 years old now. He's still doing awesome. Or appears to be awesome. But he says, I had to make 2 trips. So I don't know why you would have to make 2 trips if it was, within 1 to 200 meters. Because it's not like your normal, I don't want to say normal, that's not really the right word. Like a typical 80-year-old person is, kind of withered down to their 120s or something like that. And I could totally see, a 42-pound chest being, a quarter of their body weight. Yeah, they might have to take 2 trips, but he still looks like he has a pretty good weight. And if he was to only move it that far, I don't know why he would have to take 2 trips. I'm not saying anything, but couldn't carry it to the spot at one time. You meaning you couldn't get into the spot with the full thing all at once? Like the spot was small or tight fitting, so he had to have half and half, or I mean, if all the contents are in the chest, could get the spot with that weight. Okay, I kind of think I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I could see, if you had to climb, then yeah, maybe 42 pounds would freaking suck, but I mean, it couldn't have been a significant climb, because right here he's not saying it's anything dangerous in the normal aspect anyways. So he's definitely not scaling a cliff or anything. But it was just a thought. I wasn't trying to call you out or anything, but it just happened to come to my mind that it was you, I think. But so I'm going to leave that question, because that ESP thing is weird. I hope I'm not the only... it doesn't even make sense. He may have invented ESP if he had lived long enough. So, ESP is like a mind reading mind. So you can't be talking about like a mind reading device because that would be machine reading mind. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna read two more, and then I'm gonna call it. All right, Forrest, you said in the past that the wrong one. Okay. All right, what do you feel is one of the most important things that helped you become a successful business person? Amy. All right, I shouldn't probably say the name, but nobody knows. All right, my answer might surprise you because I had no education and no business or art experience. Everything was new to me. I didn't know how many rules, I didn't know the many rules that make businesses fail. I'm curious by nature, have wild imaginations, guts, and a logical mind, and I'm willing to work. When I put those assets in play, and with the able assistance of my wife, things began to work for us. Hustle is an important word to me. So right here we have hustle is an important word to him. He says, when I put those assets in play, all right, so here he is talking about play again, like but he's given all these, all these words. I'm curious by nature, have wild imaginations, guts, and a logical mind. So he already said, you're going to have an imagination. He has the line in there, no place for the meek, or if you are brave, and a logical mind, if you've been wise and willing to work. Whoever solves the poem will have worked for it. I don't know, it could be something, but all right. Next thing was Robert Salvi part of your inspiration for writing the poem? No, that name was unknown to me until just now when I googled it. I congratulate you on your worldliness. Are you a school teacher, librarian, or just very cultured? I don't know if this is a backhanded compliment or if he's genuinely curious. I really don't have much to say about that one though. All right, okay. Let's leave it off with this one right here that I'm about to read because I think it might be good. All right, Forrest, you talked about how you worked on and changed the poem for many years. As you read it today, are you still completely content with the belief that someone will eventually understand and follow your poem precisely to the treasure? He says, I think your question is wrought from misinformation. I have no real feelings about when the treasure might or might not be found, but eventually sounds too far away. The treasure is there for the person who can find it, and I think that person will be positive in their attitude and deliberate in their actions. No one has any secret information that will take them to the hiding place. It's in the poem for all to see. It's in the poem for all to see. It's right there. It's literally right in front of our faces. Just laughing at us, mocking us. And Fenn's like, holy crap, these guys are all like, how the hell don't they see it? I wanted it to be hard, but not impossible. Shit, I didn't think it was going to go on for 8 years. Like, I feel like that's what he's thinking. It's like, these guys are all like, none of these people have imagination, but probably going to end up talking so much that that I end up losing people, but I'm included in one of those people that don't have imagination. So, yeah, it's definitely not an insult to anybody. I just don't understand how we're not seeing it. Okay, let me, okay, he did say he was glad the poem said exactly what he wanted it to say. So does this mean someone understands? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Fenn, it is what it is. He puts out some pretty logical stuff, and he had been reading something from Fenn's scrapbook 179, which I guess he removed or something like that. But it's talking about, I'm probably saying it the wrong way, but Fenn pretty much says, it's not what I write, it's what they think I write, or I decide where the reader. He was talking about all of his punctuation in the poem, and he says, I'm the one that gets to decide when the reader pauses, not the reader. So I'm the one that decides the rules of my writing style. I'm the one that decides to use, words that don't fit as long as the reader could understand when reading the context around the words. And I'm sure you guys all remember in English class, learning about context clues. You're getting a line, or you're getting a word in a line that you don't understand, and you read everything around it, to be able to piece it together, which is Fenn said he doesn't use dictionaries. All right, so when he says, you know, you know, I was really tenacious, or tenacity was never one of my shortcomings. All right, well, obviously we know that in this case, tenacity means like persistent, right? But it isn't the right definition. But hey, throw the dictionary out the window because Fenn doesn't use them. So we really have to read the context of the line. And we have to take a pause when Fenn wants us to take a pause. And Fenn wants us to take a pause when there's a comma. So instead of looking at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, he broke those lines up to get you to like subconsciously pause. He knew that you were going to pause. So take it in the canyon down and put it right next to begin at where warm waters halt. And then you'll get begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, comma, not far, comma, but too far to walk, period. It's like, well, one, that's a weird sentence, but now you're pausing where he wants you to pause at. But yeah, does anybody have anything? We're going on past an hour and 15 minutes. Hopefully, I am going to continue this on. I am actually on leave right now. I'm in the Army and I'm on vacation, and it ends on the 27th. So I'll try to make another one of these, tomorrow or the following day. There's seriously so many questions, so much writing here that it's going to take a while. I'd have to break it up, or otherwise I'd have you guys here for like 4 hours. But came in to take a break and found you live. I'll have to watch from the start. Hey, RF Hecky, hope you're doing good. 30-minute warnings. Yeah, I can try to do that. I pretty much have to sneak away whenever the kids are content with what they're doing, and where the wife's not going to get angry that I'm recording YouTube Live. But yeah, I'll try to give you guys warnings from here on out. I don't have a typical work schedule that would allow me to put out videos at a specific time, so I kind of just get on whenever I can get on. I know it doesn't work for a lot of you guys, but I do it live so people can go back and watch it later, and I don't have to upload. Thank you, Mary Green. Will you be able to go live from base? No, I tried the other day when I have when I'm not hooked up to my Wi-Fi, or when I'm out driving around, it really sucks. So I figured you guys might not want to deal with all the lags and buffering and all that. So I can record videos, save it on my phone, and then upload it later. But the upload takes forever, and I'm at like 31 gigs out of 32 because I'm still like stuck in the Stone Age with my sweet 32 gigabytes of data, or not data, but storage space. I do have an email. I just posted it up in all of my videos. If anybody would like to contact me, please don't send me your solves or anything, just because I don't want there to be a conflict anywhere. But if you want to send an email, you can email me at fenntreasurethoughts@gmail.com. I just created it yesterday, and then as soon as this video is uploaded, I'll include it in the description box, along with Illinois Ghost's website and Mysterious Writing, which I'm assuming a lot of you guys have already been there. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It went on super long, so I'm going to end it right here. Is there anything else before I sign out? Because if not, I'm rolling. Easy.